What's up, Internet? This is your host, Angela Roberts Jr., and you're listening to another episode of The Ramblings. Before we get into today's podcast, a quick break. Welcome to The Ramblings. This is the very first episode that I have had with a co-host, Tanea Brown. So why don't you start introducing yourself in a second? Who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are.
Okay, well, I'm Tanea. I work at a global insurance company right now. I'm in the retirement sector of our insurance company, but I work in the distributions section. So that means that I take information from the stock market and I process that information that allows groups, which are employers, to give their employees their retirement money for one reason or for another, or I don't allow them to get it for whatever reason. And then I process it through the IRS and send the money out.
How did you get into something like that? Like that's a lot. Like what made you go down, I guess, the path of insurance?
I was just looking for a job, honey. Like I was looking for a big girl job, something that I could get into the corporate world where I didn't have to be standing on my feet for hours at a time, because I used to work at a Love's Travel Stop, which is a gas station. I used to work at Subways. I've worked at CVS. I've worked at food services in colleges, and like pretty much standing on my feet since like 18, right?
Right.
So it was time for me to get out of that. And I found it on Indeed. I didn't even really know what I was applying for. So I was surprised I got it when I went into the interview and they told me everything I was doing. I was like, wow, okay, I can do it.
Wow. So you just kind of happened to stumble upon it and everything? Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to try to go into insurance, or like, what did you go to school for?
Right. So I have my degree in psychology. And I actually plan to go back to get my doctorates in occupational therapy. But that takes a while, so
yeah,
it relates to it. So with insurance, that I actually just recently learned, they take every degree. You can apply almost any degree in insurance companies.
Wow.
Right. But you don't know that. And they don't. I think the reason that most people don't know that is because they don't broadcast it.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's harder when you don't know, you don't really know to ask. Right. So it's a lot harder for people to get into certain jobs because they just don't know to ask, or they don't know that, hey, even though it sounds hard, I can actually do it if you teach me how to do it.
Okay.
Right.
So
that's pretty much what it is.
The training program?
Yeah. So it's very long training. It is a lot of information, because first you got to go through basic training. So you got to learn about the company and everything like that. And then you have to learn about how to do your job specifically. And because we're dealing with so much money, and this company, it deals with, I think they said, all of the Fortune 500 companies. So they do the insurance for all of the Fortune 500 companies and then other people. So they have, I'm in the group retirement services, but they also do car insurance. What else? Life insurance. Like it's a really big company. So you have to really know what you're doing. You got to pay attention during the trainings. It's serious. I mean, it's a lot to take in at one time.
So what made you go into that shift? Like you didn't start looking for like a social work job or anything? Because I mean, you said you went to school for that. So like what, and looking for like the big girl job, you weren't looking for something in your field, or were you just looking for like a job in general? Like just anything like that just wasn't, that's like an office job.
I was looking for a job in general, but also in my field. But where I live, it's a lot harder to find jobs in my field because it's a city, but it's a very small city in the panhandle of Texas. It's farm country everywhere. So Like, no, literally, like literal farm country. So everything that they do is pretty much based off of agriculture, which makes it extremely annoying because I don't want nothing to do with an animal. You know, I'm not what is it? I'm not a vet. I can't do any of those things. And that's pretty much what they need out here. They need vets. They need people that work in the plants, doing different things. You could be a nurse in a plant. You know, a lot of people don't know that. You could be a nurse in a plant.
How does that work?
The plant workers get cut up and, you know, they get sick too. So they need nurses. I was surprised at that too, but I just happened to luck up on this job and not need any actual other experience in the, you know, in this specific section of work. So that was cool too. They pretty much just ask that you have customer service experience.
Okay. So you're from Connecticut originally. Tell me about how you got out there.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
So explain your move from Connecticut to Texas, because you're in Texas now and everything, and you have this job, but you weren't always in Texas. So talk to me about how you got to Texas and in the process in the move.
So I was actually born in Louisiana, and then I moved up to Connecticut, and so I lived there most of my life. Okay. But I left Connecticut when I was 21. I left because my mother actually moved to Texas first. So she moved to Texas, I think about 2 years before I moved. So I was living in Connecticut, just me and my sister.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was going to school and stuff, so I didn't even really see my sister, and I missed my family. I wanted to come here, you know. But my mother kind of tricked me because I knew I was going to Texas, but I didn't know I was going to small town, 300 people in the town, Texas. Like, look, yes. Yes. It's literally like most of these towns are truck stop towns, like no lie. That's why I said it's farm country, because everywhere you look, it's a farm. It's open land. It's for the cows. It's for the horses. It's for the chicken. It's for the pigs. It's just all farms. It smells like manure consistently, daytime and nighttime. Now, I don't know if you ever smell hot shit in the summer at night.
Oh, why? That's wild. So are you thinking about moving from Texas or a different part of Texas? Like, do you like it?
I do like it now.
Okay.
That I've been here for so long. In the beginning, I didn't like it as much because of the fact that there was nothing to do. You know, I live in the city now, but when I first moved here, I lived in that small town, and it was an hour and a half away from the closest city. So anytime I wanted to go to the mall, anytime I needed to go to AT&T, anytime I needed to go to any type of big store, I had to drive an hour and a half to do it.
That's
yes,
a big store shouldn't even be an hour and a half. Like, how far from Walmart?
45 minutes.
Damn. So being in the middle of nowhere and everything, how did that play into, you know, the job that you got and how you kind of operate? Because Texas is very dominant of different complexions of skin colors. So talk to me about the obstacles that you face being, you know, a woman of color and being especially in the insurance industry.
So I actually, when I first started out here in Texas, I actually worked at a Love's travel stop. So it's the same thing as Pilot, but they're like rivals. Okay. But that Love's was in Oklahoma, because where I lived in Texas, I was 20 miles away from the Oklahoma border. So I went to school in Oklahoma and I worked in Oklahoma, right? But I lived in Texas. And that, in general, this area, so in the small town I lived in, it was only like 6 Black people in the town, and 4 of them were my family. Right. Yes.
So talked about how did you navigate that?
Um, I don't know. Honestly, I feel like it's literally you just live with Mexicans and then some white people.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah. So because we're so close to Mexico, everybody just comes here, and then the plant jobs are easy for them to get. Um, but it was a lot at first because it's very hard when you don't see people that look like you,
Okay.
right? It's because Mexicans, Hispanics, they are people of color, but they still have a very different culture here than
Okay.
specifically what we have in Connecticut, specifically than what you have even in Dallas, in Houston, Austin, San Antonio. It's different.
What's it like? What do you mean by different?
It's a lot more Spanish music. There's pretty much only Mexican food. Um, like if you want to go to a restaurant, there are no soul food restaurants. There are no African restaurants. They have Asian people here as well. So you do get like Chinese food and Thai food, but that's really as far as it goes. So I had to really talk myself into liking Hispanic food a lot more,
Okay.
than what I'm used to, because I wanted to go out with people and hang out. But I used to go to this Mexican club in Kansas, um, which was actually also only an hour and a half in the opposite direction
Mm,
from me. Yeah. So I had to go through Oklahoma and then to Kansas, right? And
right.
there was actually Black people in Kansas. Okay. Yes. So I was going, right?
Right.
So that was fun, but it is definitely a lot harder when you don't know anybody, you don't see anybody. So I'm working at this Love's, and I'm literally the only Black person that works there. I had a Black manager, and he was the best manager ever. He told me he promotes everybody everywhere he goes, every Black person everywhere he goes. So I got promoted. And lit,
Worked in
right?
our favor.
Exactly. So, and I think I was only there for a couple of weeks before he had came too. So it was good work, honestly. um, but then moving from Loves and working and then trying to find another job, it was hard
Mm,
because I have experience, but I don't have the experience that they want. And I'm going to school for something completely different from what I'm doing as a job. And there's nowhere that I can get experience in what I'm doing because everything is agriculture,
okay.
right? So the people in my graduating class for psychology, it was only 5 of us.
Mm,
Yeah. So it was pretty hard. Like I didn't have any, I feel like I was not prepared for
okay.
psychology when I came out because I didn't have a advisor that knew psychology the way they should have or knew social work the way they should have.
Okay.
Um, they pretty much just knew the guidelines and did you take this class? Did you take that class? Right.
Right.
And then my psych teachers, the same people for years, so it didn't help me at all.
Mm. So
It
you
really
thought
didn't help
about
me at
moving?
all. Um,
From being in Texas or maybe moving to somewhere like I don't know, maybe would guess like San Francisco, where someone that does social working or in the psychology field might be able to make more of a living or working in that field.
I actually did move. I moved to Michigan, right outside of Detroit for almost a year,
Mm.
and I hated it. I hated it. That's why I'm back in Texas now.
It's cold out there. Why? What makes you move to Michigan?
You hear me? That's why I left right before the winter hit, like
Like
because I
what?
couldn't do it.
That is,
Uh,
especially coming from Connecticut. Like I couldn't go from a cold place to another cold place.
yeah, I actually went there for another job.
Mhm.
Um, I was supposed to be a social worker with the state and ended up not getting that job, but turns out I ended up becoming a behavioral therapist. So I worked with children and young adults with autism,
Mhm.
and that was fun. It's definitely an experience. I got hit, I got kicked, I got spit on, I got bit, got my hair pulled, a lot, and you can't do anything to the children back because they're autistic. But um, some of them have no discipline. Some of them do have discipline, and they just can't communicate with you the way they should be able to. So they communicate in other ways. So when they get frustrated, they start getting angry and stuff like that. So you have to, slow them down, figure out what the problem is, and help them communicate what their problem is, and then show them how to fix the problem, right? Okay. And then I've gotten books ripped up in my face and thrown at me from across rooms by children. I mean, all types of stuff.
Can you enjoy that?
No, not that part. But it was a very rewarding job. So, it is. I've done potty training and all types of stuff. Like, it's serious.
And so you only move because of the weather? So, I mean, that sounds like exactly what you would, supposed to be doing and everything in your field. So why move?
I moved because I was alone. I have family there, but people that always want you somewhere and then they don't have time for you when you get there. They don't want to show you anything. And then all of that just didn't work out. So I was alone. I had my dog, but that wasn't enough, and then it's hard because being a behavioral therapist there, you have to work by appointment. And so you can do more than one client, but you also have to be able to fit their schedule, fit your schedule. And does the company want to give you more clients? Do they not want to give you more clients? How long is it going to take to get you a client? Because you can have a client on your schedule, but they have to go through a very long process that it deals with the government and all of that type of stuff with their money and whatnot. So that could take a month, 2 months, and you could just be sitting there waiting for that client that whole time and not have any money coming in because of it.
Oh, so they only pay you based on the client?
For what you work, yep. Yeah, they only pay you for what you work. It's not like a set base pay, anything like that. You get an hourly wage, and it's a high hourly wage, but say you only got one client and you're waiting for 2 other ones, that means you could be working 4 hours a week. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's exactly. So that's a big push on the move. So you have experience living throughout different places in different areas. Explain to me the cultural differences. What is your what's your favorite experience of living in a different place? Like, what's your favorite type of experience that you've had so far?
I would say my favorite experience would be in Michigan. I'm not going to say Connecticut and New York because we all have those experiences pretty much once we live in Connecticut. But I would say Michigan because, first of all, so many Black people. I couldn't keep my eyes. I couldn't even blink every time I saw a Black person. I was like looking in their face.
It's a wonderful area. I like places with a lot of Black people.
Yes, me too. So I had a lot of fun going out, hanging out with people during the day parties, stuff in the summer. Listen, they got everything in Michigan. Some of them Black people rich, okay? Yeah, some of them is rich, and then some of the white people rich, and they come over and party with the Black people. So now you on a yacht. You didn't even know there was yachts in Michigan. Like, yeah.
I just learned something new today. There's yachts in Michigan.
Yes, there are. So it's a whole different type of experience, and they have good food everywhere there. I feel like, so I think in the summertime, that's like a great place to go. Like, I would go to Connecticut in the summer. I would go to New York in the summer, but I wouldn't go in the winter. So everywhere up there, I feel like it's really fun because there's so many people and so many different things to do.
That's wonderful. And I know you do have to go, so I'm going to ask you one last question before you have to sign off. If you had to give like a note or a letter to your younger self or younger anybody, who's trying to do anything by themselves and they're taking on obstacles, maybe even moving. We have a lot of people that are out of jobs right now because of the coronavirus and are switching situations. What would your advice be to those people?
I say, don't let fear stop you from doing anything in your life. People die every day. People get stolen every day. People have heart attacks at random every day. anything negative that you can come up with to not go somewhere new can happen to you right where you're at. So just go. You know, that's not to say don't take precautions. Do take precautions everywhere you go, but don't let fear stop you from living your life. Do things smart. Don't let anybody hold you back ever. Put yourself first always, because putting someone else first, they're still putting themselves first. And that doesn't help you at all.
True.
You know. And have fun. I'll say try and have fun. Do what you enjoy, and that'll make it better.
That's wonderful. So I'm glad I was able to put you on my podcast today. So I will be having your episode drop as soon as I can, probably tonight, tomorrow-ish, after I get everything post-edited. So I know you got to go. So thank you for joining the Ramblings.
Yes.
What's up, podcast? If you like today's content, follow me at Assistance HQ across all my social media for more great content, or svaofamerica.com. Again, that's Assistance HQ across all my social media, or svaofamerica.com.